Dr. BABASAHEB AMBEDKAR Open University.
Hello and welcome again to the second part of our first session. I welcome you to the Chaitanya studio of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. We are here together to discuss the course of organizational behavior. Within that, we are starting with the Unit 1, Block 1. Its second part is understanding organizational behavior and what are the fields or what are the disciplines that contribute to our understanding of organizational behavior. I am Dr. Margi Parikh. I am a professor at BK School of Business and Professional Studies, Gujarat University. And we have, in the first part of this session, we have seen what the organizations are and we have seen what is the need for the process of organization. In this session, we are going to discuss about organizational behavior, what it is, and we are going to see the fields of knowledge or the disciplines which shape our understanding of organizational behavior. Well, let us explore what organizational behavior is with the understanding, as we saw in the first part of this session, that some of you may not have worked in a formal capacity in a business organization. Each one of you, even without being ever an employee of a formal organization, we are a student and practitioner of organizational behavior. Can you guess why? The reason is that, as we saw in the first part, organizations are everywhere and organizations are social also. They are not necessarily only the business organization, and if the organizations are social, then every one of us have been a part of them. For example, we already are a part of our family, our community. They are the examples of social organizations, whereas formal organizations can be labor union. For example, if a labor union is registered, then it is a formal organization. But if we are just talking about informal organization like a community, then it can be a social organization if the community is formed with a business purpose. But if it is informal, then it is an informal organization. Social organization we have already seen. As members of the organizations, we are expected to behave in some way. If you remember, in the first session, we saw that there are no right and wrong that can be universally applied to all organizations, but organizations are governed by laws, by rules, by conventions, and by norms. Especially when we talk about social organizations, then, for example, family. As a social organization, there are norms which govern the members of the organization and how they will conduct themselves. For example, if you go to somebody's wedding, you will dress in a particular way. But if it is your own wedding, well, I do not know if you are already married or you are yet not married. But this day comes in almost everybody's life at least once. And if it is your own wedding, then you dress in a particular way. But if you go to work, this is not how you will dress, or this is not how you dress for somebody else's wedding. And how do I know how to dress? It is that understanding is derived from the norms and conventions which govern the behavior of the members of the organization. In formal organization, as we just saw, the people join in positions. Do you remember in the first part of this session, we saw that the first step is creating the organizations, and the process of organizing involves creation of positions which are interrelated and interdependent, and each position has been assigned responsibilities. And it is later that the people join those positions. So when people join in those positions which are created for performance of what? Performance of activities which will ultimately help the organization achieve its own goals and purpose, right? So the people who join the organization and take up specific positions are expected to act in a specific way so that goal can be achieved. Everybody contributes to achievement of organization's goals. For example, if there is an organization, it has a headquarter, the headquarter has an office, and the office may have a security personnel. The security guard has his or her own role. So maybe whatever they do is not directly contributing to the organization's profit, but it does help whatever the security guard do. If the guards do that well, then it helps the organization to achieve its goal in a more effective manner. So likewise, in a social organization, people are born into positions. For example, somebody is born as a child, son or daughter, somebody is born as a grandson or granddaughter of somebody else. So the new members observe and learn from existing members who act as their role models. The word is not mentioned here, but when you observe and learn from somebody else's behavior, that person becomes a role model, and those role models not only help other people learn, but the people will also learn from their direct experience. So learning happens in two ways, by observing others and by one's own direct experience. Over time, people develop their own theories. These theories help them predict and explain why people do what they do and what they will do in a particular situation. For example, if a college going son comes home late in the night, what will the father or mother say and do? What if the daughter, so son comes home late, something happens, father and mother behave in a particular way. What if the daughter comes home late in the night? What do parents what are the parents expected to do and say as compared to son's late coming, and why do they behave the way they do? We all may have some explanation to the question. But of course, later on we will come to see that there are individual differences and we may have different theories about the same phenomenon. For example, I may have some theory why people deal with their sons and daughters in different ways. Somebody else may have another theory. So question is not that we have different theories, but what interests managers is to see how accurate is one's own explanation. Sometimes we are wrong, but in important situations, as managers, as we are responsible for others and we are responsible for the organization and its goals, can we afford to be wrong? So even though this is a very complex business of understanding other people's behavior, explaining them and predicting those behaviors is very difficult. At the same time, the risk of being wrong is also pretty high. Sometimes we may be correct also. What is correct in case of one person may be incorrect in the case of somebody else. It depends on the context. For example, in the case of late coming in the night in one family, it may not be really different in case of son and daughter, and both may be disciplined in a very highly cautious manner, but in some other family it could be different. It could be not both the son and daughters are regulated, but maybe both may be not regulated, or maybe the daughter may be more controlled than the son. So what is correct or what is right in one case is not necessarily right in the case of some other unit. When we join an organization to achieve professional and business outcomes, it may be too risky to be inaccurate or biased. So in social organizations, whatever may go on, but in case of business and professional organizations, so to say, there is a lot at stake. For example, the profit or the reputation, and therefore, as a manager, when you are responsible for the organization's outcomes or you are responsible for guiding and facilitating other people, you do not want to be biased or inaccurate. Therefore, we need a more systematic approach to the study of behavior so that we can understand accurately the behavior of others at work. As I said, all of us may be working theories, and all of us may have some explanation why we have a particular theory, but when we apply our theories to the behavior of people at work, we want to be less biased and we don't want to be inaccurate. So, the way to develop theories which are more accurate and less biased is to go about it in a systematic manner, and that is what is our point of interest in this session. Organizational behavior is commonly known as OB. It is a field of study and practice both. The practice can be observed by researchers who are systematically studying, and from that study they develop theories, and at the same time available theories are applied by professionals and managers and they are put to practice. So, OB in short is a field of studying as well as practice. OB is focused on systematic study of how the dynamics of individuals, group and organization impact and get impacted by the behavior of people within the organization. Now, that's a lot of words. We are going to revisit these, so do not panic. But let me say briefly that first of all, as we just saw, the study needs to be more systematic. Of course, all of us behave and all of us also observe the behavior of ourselves as well as others, but doing that systematically requires a slightly different approach. We will discuss that in a while. Dynamics is a term which indicates some kind of force or influence. It is a process of influence of how one factor affects the others and how other factors influence this factor. That mutual flow of influence is generally understood as dynamics, and when we apply those dynamics to organizational behavior, the levels are individuals. As we know, individuals affect others and get affected by others. Likewise, groups. In organizations, people rarely work independently or alone. They usually work together in a group. For example, a department is a group. So, how the dynamics of behavior occur at a group level and how those dynamics occur at the level of the entire organization. All three levels are important, where a particular unit of observation, for example, individual, group or organization, how they impact and get impacted by the behavior of people within the organization. That draws for us the boundary of what organizational behavior is for. The study of this kind helps the organization achieve its goal known as effectiveness. If you remember, in the first part of this session, I had brought into our discussion the word effectiveness. Effectiveness refers to the degree to which one can achieve one's stated goals. And because in organizations it is people who do the things and people who make things happen, if our understanding of OB is accurate, then that understanding of people and their behavior can help us achieve, for our organization, achieve its goal more effectively. Anyone who wishes to study OB would usually focus on a few things. First is what people do within an organization, how their behavior is shaped, how their behavior affects the performance of organization. Of course, this third one will come about through the influence over other people's behavior. This study is expected to help an organization be more effective, that is, achieve its stated goal in a better manner. Just as the organization's tasks, you remember the first session of organizing, where tasks are divided into groups, study of organizational behavior is also divided into levels. If you remember what I said just a couple of slides back, you will not have to see what I have written here. You would be able to know that it is individual, group and organization. At individual level of study, the organizational behavior and its study and practice focus on what happens at the level of an individual. Of course, no prize for guessing. The study at individual level usually involves the study of personality, attitudes, motivation, and perception. You would have probably heard all these terms, but I will briefly just clarify what each means. Personality usually is understood in terms of unique characteristics or what is known as traits of a person, or in terms of behavior, a person's repetitive patterns of behavior. Attitudes are a persistent tendency to think, feel, and behave in a particular fashion towards a particular person, situation, or an object. Motivation shows the directionality and intensity of one's behavior towards a goal, and perception shows the process of how a person makes sense of what is happening in and around that person. So, usually when we study behavior at individual level, these are the focuses of our attention. As you know from the title slide, our focus after this session is going to be on the individual behavior, then we move to group behavior, and then to the understanding of behavior at organization level. At group level, the study is usually about how people form the groups. Of course, in formal organization, when one person joins a position, that person doesn't have much choice about whom they will be reporting to, who will be that person's peer or co-workers, and who will be the subordinates of that person. So, formal relationships are often established by the structure itself, but in an organization, one also makes informal relations. For example, with whom will you have lunch every day? So, how would people form the groups? In large departments, maybe people get along much better with some people, but not so well along with some other people. So, how do groups and subgroups form? How people communicate with each other? How, of course, when people start working and communicating together, there may be conflicts. So, when conflicts occur, how they are managed within the group? How people will negotiate, how they will exchange, what they will give to others and what they expect to receive in return. Maybe often this kind of interaction and working itself may produce a lot of stress. So, how they will handle, how they will manage the stress, and there are other topics as well. The organization level usually refers to topics such as power and politics. It may be slightly complex. It is not politics at the state level or local government level. At the organization level, how do organizations manage or deal with change, and what is organization culture? These are the focal points at organization level. Organizational behavior introduces us to comprehensive set of principles. Comprehensive means they cover almost everything. The principles are the guiding elements towards our behavior, so that working with people, we can use the systematically derived insights. You remember, we don't want to be biased and we don't want to be inaccurate. So, when we apply these principles, it is hoped that our understanding and our prediction of behavior will be more accurate, and that is how we can also replace popular conception may be referring to sometimes, what people say about others, what they say generally, why women do what they do, or why people from a particular region, what they are likely to be. These are some of the popular notions, and we don't want to judge a person based on what is popularly floating around theory. So, our understanding of OB will help us do away with this. The nature of these popular beliefs, sometimes, of course, I said that they just generalize what a particular group of persons is likely to be. On top of it, they often have two opposite versions. For example, on one hand, just as I referred to women earlier, women are supposed to be weak, of course, weaker compared to men, but some people also think that women are therefore inferior. But on the other hand, women are also supposed to be the symbol of Shakti. And people establish deities which are female. So which one is true? If you are selected to lead a group, will you select a woman and will you entrust a lot of responsibility to her will depend on whether you go by the popular notion and which of the two opposites you believe in. Decisions like these can be, on the other hand, taken in a more systematic manner, and that is where OB can help us. It doesn't mean that in the field of OB everything is nice and easy. You remember those X or N number of principles and you will have everything under control. It is not like that. Research suggests that managers in today's organization face both opportunities as well as challenge in the field of OB. We will come to opportunities and challenges at later parts in this course, but right now, since we are talking a lot about OB, let us first see what the definitions are. Callahan, Fleener and Cudson have offered a definition of OB as a subset of management activities concerned with understanding, predicting and influencing individual behavior in an organizational setting. Raman Aldag defined OB as a branch of social science that seeks to build theories that can be applied to predicting, understanding and controlling behavior in the work organizations. Newstrom and Davis defined OB as the study and application of knowledge about how people act within the organization. It is a human tool for human benefit. It applies broadly to the behavior of people in all types of organization. Fred Luthans defined organizational behavior as concerned with understanding, production and control of human behavior in the organizations. Stephen Robbins defined OB as a field of study that investigates the impact that individuals, group and structure have on behavior within the organizations for the purpose of applying such knowledge towards improving an organization's effectiveness. Now, these definitions use some of the terms that you have already become familiar with, and there are some new terms as well. Just as in case of organizations, we saw the definitions and from the definitions we decided to see some distinguishing features. Likewise, from the definitions of OB that we have seen, we are now going to see what are some of the distinct characteristics or features of OB. For example, from the definitions we have seen that there is some convergence of thinking. That is, different convergence means that different authors who have given definitions come to some common grounds, and we see that those definitions are relevant to all types of organizations, whether they are for profit or not, whether they are privately owned or not, whether they are small or whether they are large. Within these organizations, OB is involved with behavior at three levels: individuals, group and the organization structure as a whole. Research in the OB is applied in nature. That means that rather than treating the knowledge for the sake of knowledge, what is understood in the field of OB is meant for application to real life organizations so that they can solve their problems and they can meet the needs of managers. Of course, the managers are interested in achieving the goals of the organization. But you would remember that some people who gave the organizations defined it as it meaning organizational behavior as part of management study, and another author defined it as part of social studies. In a little while, we are going to see what disciplines contribute to our understanding of OB. OB as a field treats organization as a purposeful system. We have repeatedly said that organizations have goals. Maybe they are not articulated very well, maybe they are not so widely shared among the people of the organization, maybe they are sometimes not even legal, but OB applies to organization which is a purposeful system. it has several subsystems. We saw that organization has a structure and levels, and at different levels there may be subgroups of organizations also, where individuals and activities are organized to achieve a certain set of predetermined goals through division of efforts, where what people will do is divided in according to their skills and assigned to that specialized knowledge, and then coordinating all the activities. Division of labor is about dividing the work that we just saw. In the example of a security guard, we know that there is a set of duties that the guard is going to perform. Although behavior can be analyzed in any context, OB generally refers to human behavior at work. We can now talk about OB at the levels at which it is analyzed. We saw that it is analyzed, it is studied, it is applied, it is understood at 3 levels, and OB is a part of social science. Do you remember earlier definition that we saw? It is important because in social science, as it is in case of people, we do not have universal truths. That means that there are often no right or wrong answers that we also saw in the process of understanding organization, but it is more about knowing what is suitable in a given context and what is appropriate in that particular situation. In this manner, the social sciences are different from physical sciences, where we know the answers can be exact. For example, in mathematics, 2 plus 2 is always 4, whether you do that here or whether do it on the moon. Although people do not agree about this feature, managers are interested in not only understanding the behavior, but also in predicting and controlling the behavior, as you saw in the definitions. In many cases, if the understanding of OB is systematic, the prediction becomes better in terms of its quality. For example, the employee attitude surveys give the insight into employee morale, employee intention to leave, and measures which can improve the employees' attitudes. If managers are effective in making changes, then the attitudes can actually be improved, and we later on in this case, in this course, we are going to see some examples as well. Lastly, the organizations influence the behavior of people, but people's values and beliefs also influence. As in case of the term dynamics, what happens is the influence runs in both the directions, and that is also the case between people and groups and organizations. Thus, we can say that the influence is in both directions, which makes actually OB a very interesting field to study. With this, we should move closer to the end of this session. So let me, for your help, summarize what we have just seen. In this second part of the unit related to introduction to organizing and organizational behavior, we picked up from where we left off after the first part of this session, which was more about the organizing and organizing process. In this part, we introduced the term organizational behavior. We linked organizational behavior to the organizations. We revisited some of the features of the organizations, and then we came back, we brought back that logic and understanding to the field of organizational behavior. And we also saw how organizational behavior, its understanding, helps managers not only to put that understanding into practice, but with that application, how managers can predict other people's behavior and control the behavior at work. We checked out several definitions given by widely known and accepted authors, and based on those definitions, we have seen various distinguishing features of the field of organizational behavior. What we need to do now is go to another part at a later time, where we will see the fields of knowledge and practice, or the disciplines which influence our understanding or which shape our understanding of organizational behavior. But we come to the end of this session now. Thank you for being with us, and see you very soon. Until then, it is goodbye.